just put in the chat.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And is my voice clear, guys? All right. That's great. That's great. Okay. I would ask you all to please unmute your mics, or rather mute your mics, because we are going live as well. So if you have any questions to ask, you can put in the chat. Okay. Or I'll give you all a time wherein you all can, even unmute yourself and ask questions. For now, kindly mute your mics so that we can have a smooth flow today. Great. And if there's any problem in terms of if you're not able to hear me or if the screen is not visible, do let me know in the chat. So I'm sure the screen must be visible to everyone right now. I'll just guide you through a mind map right now as to what are we going to do today and what is expected from us from TCS in terms of NQT. All right, a couple of notes. TCS NQT will not be as difficult as TCS Digital. So you can expect some level change in terms of TCS NQT. But that's not really good news for you. I'll tell you why. Because if it's not as difficult as digital for you, then it means that it won't be as difficult as digital for others as well, which means the competition is very high. So TCS NQT has lots and lots of competition. Many people applying, huge competition. Okay. So then how do you cross this benchmark, and how do you go ahead in terms of competition? Well, what you can do is you can pay attention to the little details that people miss, small details that everyone misses. And that is some questions on vocab, some questions on right word. I'll be guiding you with all those things today. So if you can master those, then you can have a competitive advantage over the vast majority. That's what this workshop is going to be, specifically the part one, which will be covered till probably 1 o'clock. So we have a good 3 hours with us. All right. So let's go ahead. Put it probably 1 o'clock. So we have a good 3 hours with us. All right. All right. So let's go ahead. So first and foremost, in TCS NQT, you have this verbal ability section which has 24 questions. How many questions? 24 questions. Okay. And you will be given 30 minutes, 30 minutes of time. So in terms of time, you have ample amount of time to clear your verbal section. 24 questions, 30 minutes. The good news is that there is no negative marking. Okay. No negative marking for our verbal ability, which means there is no point of leaving questions behind. You're not supposed to leave any question unattempted. Kindly attempt all the questions, regardless of the difficulty level. 24 questions, 30 minutes, 6 minutes more, which means you have time. And if you have prepared earlier for TCS Digital, you can use the same strategy and probably solve these questions much faster. Now, what type of questions can be asked? There might be a combination of this of many of the questions. You might have a combination of reading comprehension, close test, and then vocab questions. Okay. Or you may have a lot of vocab and probably one reading comprehension. So there might be many combinations. So we will prepare ourselves for all possible combinations. All right. What TCS does is it changes the names, popular names of certain topics. Like, for example, they will not call it parajumbles, they call it passage reordering, which is nothing but same as parajumbles type 2. What is this type 2? I'll be talking to you about it later on. Also, when it comes to sentence completion, we are all familiar with something called a sentence completion where there are a few blanks. Sometimes they give a different name to this. They call it selecting the right words. So that there might be many different names that they might use, but it's fundamentally the same. There's nothing new over here. Okay. So don't get confused when you see different names. It's nothing but the same. You have to be very aware, read carefully. All right. So you must have captured the fact that we have 24 questions, 30 minutes, and no negative marking. Let's look at the topics. Now, in reading comprehension, what type of passages can you expect? Now, the difficulty level is not going to be highly difficult. It may border around moderate to difficult. Probably you can expect a passage which is moderate, which means intermediate level. Okay. Now, the passage length may be long. Okay, the passage may go to 2 pages also, at the most 1.5 page. So you may have to flip through and read the passage. So you have to prepare yourself for that. Okay, many times I've heard people saying that no, they'll be giving small passages, one paragraph passages. No, that's not how it's going to be. You will have a big passage probably that is 1.5 page at the most. So you may have to flip through. That's why you have to have that practice. Now, reading comprehension passage might come from history, philosophy, or current affairs. The author may the test givers might use history to test your awareness of how do you analyze data which has already been done, and how do you analyze it and decide decision making power. They might give you philosophy for your analytical thinking. How deep can you think logically? They might give you current affairs also for the same reason. Now you have to understand one thing: in reading comprehension, the passage is everything. Remember this sentence that I've told you: the passage is everything. You cannot think beyond the passage. Okay? The passage is given to you so that you can comprehend the mind of the author. And once you do that, accuracy will flow. Okay, so we will take reading comprehension in details right now. What we will also do today is we'll definitely do parajumbles in the section after lunch. But today, right now, what we'll do is we'll do reading comprehension, and we will go for selecting the words, a variation of sentence completion. So after lunch, we will do parajumbles, close test, and whatever remains. Right now, we will do reading comprehension and variations of sentence completion. All right. Now, time for any questions. If anybody has any questions, please put in the chat. All right. So let's continue. Let's try to understand reading comprehension in the light of TCS NQT. Now, remember we have 24 questions. You may have two passages on RC, two RC passages. And these two RC passages might take around 10 to 14 marks. These two RC passages might take around 10 to 14 marks. How? You may have one passage with 7 questions, each question 1 mark, and you may have another with 7 questions, or you may have one with 10 and other with 4. Okay, so you can have two RCs, maybe 10 to 14 marks are gone there, and then remaining 10 marks can be divided under parajumbles, sentence completion, sentence correction, error detection. Okay, all of those things. We'll do that in the next half of the first of our lunch, before lunch. First, we'll focus only on RC. Okay, now a few fundamentals of RC, which I'm sure you're aware of, but I would like to bring it to your attention, because when we repeat, we learn better. And that is, look for two types of questions. You will have inferential and you'll have referential. Referential comes from the word refer, which means you have to refer to a particular part of the passage and then answer the question. Okay, inferential and referential. What about inferential? In inferential, you're supposed to read the entire passage and then answer the question from the point of view of the entire passage, not from the point of view of part of passage. A part of the passage may say something, but then you have to read the passage from the point of view of the central idea of the passage and then answer the question. Another thing in inferential question is that you cannot just look at a part and say that this is the answer. What is the meaning of infer? Infer means to go beyond what is written, to go beyond what is written, and try to understand why it is written. So the trap that many students fall is when an inferential question is asked and students, they say that no, but it is mentioned over here, so that's the answer. No, inferential question says not just what is mentioned, but why it is mentioned. And you will not be able to answer inferential question if you do not read the passage and understand the entire passage. You must read the entire passage line by line. You cannot skip any part of the passage. So I'll teach you, and I'm sure many of my students are aware of this method, but I'll revisit that method of reading also. But right now, please try to grasp this, that two types of questions. You have inferential and referential. In referential, you will know that you have to go to a specific part of the passage and give an answer. In referential, they will ask you questions like, according to the passage, or according to the author, or why does the author say so and so? What can be inferred? What can be assumed? All of these come under inferential questions, which means go beyond what is written. Remember this. The first thing that I told you is that the first truth that I told you is, in RC, the passage is everything. Meaning, don't go beyond the passage into your own knowledge. Okay, the passage is everything. Remember this. The second thing is, get into the mind of the author. How? I'll be telling you that. The first thing, passage is everything. Second is, get into the mind of the author. Okay, what do I mean by passage is everything? Read line by line, read the entire stuff properly. Now, how to read? Let's take an example over here itself. I've written here two types of questions, inferential. So if you notice, my cursor is moving, and that is the speed of my reading. Wherever my cursor is, that's where I'm reading. That's where my attention is. So the speed with which I move my cursor is nothing but the speed of my reading. That is how you're supposed to read. Okay, that's what I say. That's what I mean by saying passage is everything. Like a detective, you're supposed to look for clues within the passage, not beyond the passage. Big mistake that many students do is they rely on their own general knowledge. They rely on their own pre-knowledge, knowledge that they already have, and then they try to answer the RC passage questions using that knowledge. Never do that, because that is your point of view. RC is not about point of view. That is done in group discussions. That is later on, and in essays. Here, it's about objectivity, not your point of view, but the author's point of view. How well you're able to read and understand somebody else's text. How accurately can you understand somebody else's written communication? That is the point over here. So you will not put your own ideas. That's what I mean by passage is everything. If you realize this, 90% of your mistakes will go away. The second is getting into the mind of the author. How? How do we get into the mind of the author? By looking for favorite words. What are favorite words? Words which are repeated. Certain authors always repeat a few words. So look for some favorite words. If these words have a positive meaning, then the author is trying to inform you something. But if these words have a negative meaning, consistently the author is using negative words, negative ideas, which means the author is trying to criticize. If positive meaning, it means information, information sharing. If favorite words, normally the words that he uses are normally negative, then it's about criticism. Very important to understand this, because when you understand these two things, whether it's informative or criticism, your answers will be more accurate, because now you are getting into the mind of the author. So you may have words like this: what could have been done. What could have been done means it was not done. What could have been done. So words like these will be there in criticism. Just given one example, that there might be many such ones. In positive meaning, info passages, you may have lot of examples, and you may have lot of new concepts, new ideas. So you'll find out that the author is very excited to share some information. Step one, read the passage like a detective. Step two, get into the mind of the author with these verbal cues. See, you cannot use non-verbal cues because there's nobody out there. The text is everything that you have. These two things are very important. Now, let us look at some practical examples. The first one. Guys, am I audible? Is my voice clear? If there is any disturbance in my voice, do let me know. If it's clear, then please put in the chat box. Okay. All right. Thank you. Fine. Because I just got a notification that my internet connection is unstable. That's why. All right. So the first thing that you must do is glean through the questions. I'm using the word glean through the questions. Why glean through the questions? Some students, when I say read the questions, I've noticed they take it in a different they take it in a different meaning altogether. They read very carefully the questions. By doing that, you're wasting time, guys. Okay? They read very meticulously. Every word they read very carefully. Don't do that, because you're wasting your time. Glean through the question means quickly have a glance at the question. Not the options, guys, only question. Why? When your brain looks at questions, it will start looking for answers. That's why. and you'll also get a fair idea as to what the passage might be about even before you read the passage. Okay, so first glean through the questions. This will give you an idea of what the passage is about and also what to look for in the passage. Then read with stylus. Yes, great. Read with stylus. What is a stylus? In case of your online exams, it's going to be just your cursor, this thing, which is moving right now, the cursor. Don't don't tell yourself that I'm an expert in reading, so I don't need a stylus. Everyone needs to use a stylus. Why? Because our eyes tend to jump through familiar information. That's why we miss out on key points because we assume things. Don't do that. Read with a stylus, line by line. Your first, this is called your first reading. Now, if you're an expert reader, that is, you have read many books, okay, then with just one reading, you will be able to comprehend the passage. But if you are not an expert reader, then you may have to repeat it twice, but you don't have to read the entire passage two times. I'll tell you what has to be done. The first reading is reading with stylus. The second reading is when you read just the first para and the last para. And you don't have to read the entire first para, maybe few lines in the first para and few lines in the last para. This is going to be a second reading. Why? To recapture the theme of the passage. Now, normally with these two readings, you should be able to answer all the questions. By now, you'll have a fair idea. Then what's going to happen is when you go through the questions, let's say you answer question number one. By answering question number one, you have already increased your comprehension or understanding of the passage. And when you answer question number two, again you have understood it more. So now my suggestion is go for the referential questions first. You already have read the questions, attempt the referential questions. Kindly mute the mics, guys. Please mute the mic. Okay. Attempt the referential questions. Why to attempt the referential questions? Because they are quick to solve. All you need to do is go to the part of the passage, and by now you already know where the the answer is, because you read the questions, you read the passage, you know where it is going to be. So attempt the referential questions. This will increase your understanding, give you more confidence, because you already solved some questions in very less time, because it takes less time, very less time, a fraction of few seconds, that's it. Okay, attempt the referential questions, then go for the inferential questions. Now you have a better chance of getting high accuracy. Why? You have already answered a few questions, your confidence levels are high, your knowledge level is high, you will be in the best possible state of mind to answer the inferential questions. Your mind is relaxed and you can now attempt the inferential questions. If anybody has any doubt so far on the strategies mentioned, please let me know in the chat. Have a look at this strategy and let me know. We will continue with the strategy. I just want to know whether you have any doubts or can I solve any problems right now. All right. If no doubts and if you want me to continue, please put in the chat. Let's go. Thank you. Okay, Ajinkya has a doubt. Yes, Ajinkya, regarding the first para and the last para, only after you have read the first para completely, only after you have read the first reading, that is the first, you read with stylus. Then, just to deepen your understanding, if you feel that maybe I have not comprehended the passage, if you feel that way, then read the first para and the last para to improve your understanding of the passage. Because first para gives introduction and final para gives you conclusion and summary. That's why. Let's continue. Okay. All right. If it's clear so far, then now I'll just give you some of the common pitfalls when it comes to inferential questions. Pitfalls means areas where students fail normally. So what are the common pitfalls in inferential questions? Okay. So first and foremost, many times students say that, sir, I feel this is the answer. I feel is not the right vocabulary, guys. It doesn't matter what you feel. When you say I feel, it means you're using your pre knowledge. It means you're using your common sense. Don't use common sense over here. Okay. Here you have to use the author's sense. So when you have options which are very close to each other, let's say option A, option B, option C, and option D. Let's say that option A and C are very close to each other, and you're not able to distinguish what's the, how can we decide between option A and C. Then ask yourself a question. Now, this is purely for inferential questions, huh, guys. Don't mix it up with referential questions. Ask yourself the question, which of these two could be the greater option? Greater option means, can C be part of A? Can C be part of A? Logically, can C be part of A? Or is A part of C? When you can answer that question, you will realize that if C can be part of A, which means A is a greater option, then in that case, A should be taken as the right answer. Okay. We call this as the subset theory. Let's say the passage was about war. Okay. I'll just give an example. Let's say that you read the entire passage. It talks about First World War, Second World War, Cold War, and then a future biological war. Okay. Author has spoken about all these things. In the first pair of the author, in the first introduction, the author has just talked about the different wars that humanity have, faced. And in the last para, maybe the author spoke about how all these wars have affected the mindset of humanity and what we can expect in the future because of this mindset. Okay, just remember these points. Fine. So after reading, you were able to make this, you were able to make this sense. Now, in the questions that are given to you, probably you may have a question which talks about, according to the author, So it may be according to the war, according to the author, the war is necessary evil. Let's say, okay. So I'll just give you, once again, I'll just give you the info on this particular passage. Let's say you read a passage. First para talks about all the wars that happened, and then in details we're going with World War One, World War Two, the Cold War, and then the biological wars that have happened and that can happen. And then finally, the author is talking about how wars have always been part of human beings, and then he's making some points over there. Okay, wars have always been part, and maybe they'll always go ahead. What we can do about it? Okay, I'm just giving you a very general idea. Now, I've just given you something which is not very great info. It's a very limited info. I want to know from this limited info that you have just listened to, if I give you a question like this, an inferential question with four options. According to the author, war is necessary evil, promotes peace, inevitable, humanly impossible. Which of the options will definitely not be part of the answer? Which of the options will definitely not be part of the answer? Very good. Promotes peace is definitely not there. Very good. Absolutely. Promotes peace will definitely not be there. And four, humanly impossible. That war is not possible at all, that also will not be there, right? So these two are definitely no. What about option 1 and 3? How will you decide between 1 and 3? They are very close to each other. 1 and 3 are very close to each other, right? So how will you decide between 1 and 3 based on the info that you have got? The difference over here is inevitable means no matter what human beings do, since right from the beginning of time till today, wars have not stopped. It means it is within the nature of human beings that somewhere, somehow, war will definitely happen. Very closely related to that is the moral idea of necessary evil, which means something which cannot be, no matter what you do, probably that will be part of it. So, for example, when you're sitting here for reading comprehension lecture, you're not enjoying your favorite show on Netflix. That's the choice that you have. So it's yes. If you notice, inevitable is a bigger option over here. Inevitable means it's going to happen. Necessary evil, very closely related to inevitable, but a part of it. It's a part of it. Therefore, inevitable is a bigger option. Subset theory, according to subset theory, this is the big set. This is the biggest set, and necessary evil is a smaller set. So, based on the info that I have given you, probably the best thing could be, answer could be inevitable, based on the info that I have given you, because necessary evil is also part of inevitable. If anybody has doubts on this, please ask. We are anyway going to solve passages right now, so this is going to be even more clear when you solve it on your own. But so far, is it clear? If anybody has doubts, please ask. Okay, I'm getting comments that it's clear. Superb. Now, if you go with this, you will leave out a lot of problems. ठीक है?
फोटो मस्त है.
Fine. Now let me go through another pitfall, and that is, so one more pitfall. Let me just remove this annotation, clear my drawing. Okay. Now many times students, what they do is, when it comes to inference, I already told this earlier, inference का मतलब क्या होता है? Inference means you have to go read the passage and go into the depth of it, read between the lines, kind of a thing. What is not mentioned, but what is intended. This will happen when you have comprehended the passage, when you have understood the passage from the point of view of the author. Many times the answer that they are looking for may not be clearly written in the passage. You have to put in something which is not clearly mentioned. So the answer, another clue that I'll give you is that the answer in terms of inferential questions, the answer is not mentioned verbatim. Verbatim का मतलब क्या है? Word to word. This is a clue that you can take. The answer is not mentioned verbatim in the passage. इसका मतलब है कि when you have options, जिसमें से कोई ऐसा ऑप्शन ऐसे है कि ये तो पैसेज में गारंटी लिखा हुआ है, कभी भी वो ऑप्शन को मत चुनना. Never choose that option in inference, the option which is clearly seen somewhere in the passage. Why? Question क्या था? Question था inference, मतलब क्या infer किया जाता है. Question reference नहीं था, question inference था. So inference का मतलब ये होता है कि it is not written in the passage, but it is intended. So among the options, if you have some options which are clearly mentioned in the passage, don't choose those options. जो verbatim है, word to word है, उसको मत choose करो. ठीक है? This is kind of a negative scheme wherein I'm trying to tell you what not to choose. Hope this is also clear to you guys. Okay, now let's get into the practice. I'm going to give you passages right now. What we'll do is we'll solve one after the other passages. We have 3 passages to solve right now. And why I've taken 3 passages is because somewhere definitely एक passage तो आने ही वाला है. You will always have one passage in your NQT exam. You may even have two. So let's prepare ourselves. So I'm going to give you all 3 passages right now. Difficulty level is somewhere between intermediate to difficult. Okay, chosen the right kind of difficulty level so that you guys are well prepared. I'm going to give that link over here, and you can download it, and then you can solve it using the strategies that you have already heard. ठीक है, यूज द सेम स्ट्रेटजीज. पहले क्वेश्चंस को ग्लीन करो, फिर पैसेज को पढ़ो वर्ड टू वर्ड, उसके बाद फर्स्ट पैरा, सेकंड पैरा, इफ द पैसेज इज नॉट क्लियर, एंड देन अटेम्प्ट इट. ओके, द टाइम इज गोइंग टू बी 10 minutes per passage. ठीक है, 10 मिनट मिलने वाला है पर पैसेज. आई एम गोइंग टू गिव यू ऑल द 3 passages राइट नाउ. सो फर्स्ट यू विल सॉल्व ओनली द फर्स्ट पैसेज. ठीक है, पहला खाली फर्स्ट पैसेज सॉल्व करेंगे. आई एम गोइंग टू गिव यू 10 minutes, फिर हम उसके ऊपर डिस्कशन करेंगे. देन आई एम गोइंग टू गो टू पैसेज 2. Again, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. Then we'll discuss on that. Once the 10 minutes are over, then we'll go through the entire passage. I'll discuss on it. That way we'll solve it so that you're crystal clear how to solve the reading comprehension passages. So I'm going to give you the link right now. Only attempt the first passage. Okay, just attempt the first passage, not the second. Time limit is 10 minutes because there are 7 questions in that passage. So I'm giving you 3 minutes as grace. If you can solve it within 7 minutes, even better. Okay.
कहाँ में खर्च
So I've given the link. The link is pretty simple. You just have to type out this link. For those who are on YouTube right now, maybe you just will have to type out this link that has been given. For those who are joining from Zoom, I have given it on your chat as well. You can just click on it. Just attempt the first passage. It's 10:50, 10:41 right now. We will discuss at 10:51. All right, I can see a resounding yes by everyone. So let's continue. Let's go for the passage. So you can stop solving now. Those who have solved also, those who are yet solving, please stop it right now, and we'll start looking at the passage. I'll just put it on the screen. Okay, so this was the passage that we had. So what was the passage about? What do you think was the author's intention in this passage? What does the author want to convey in this passage? Quickly, guys, you can put in the chat. What do you think was the intention of the author? What idea does he want to convey in this passage? Okay. Uh, the first part, Porus, what you have said is about Europeans bad. Maybe that cannot be inferred, but Japanese isolationalism is good. That is correct. Okay. Or you would say that the Japanese isolated themselves from European influences. They took some stringent measures to isolate themselves from European influences, and that turned out well compared to the nations who did not do that. Okay, but the thing about Europeans being bad, that's a mind read. Mind read means that's what you have you have concluded on your own. Nowhere does the author say that the Europeans were bad. He just criticized certain policies of the Europeans during their expansion campaigns. Yes, Ashutosh, that is a part of what the author is saying regarding Europeans did their culture expansion in the name of trade. That's a small part of the entire passage. That is not what the entire passage is about. The entire passage is about Europeans doing all of that, and then Japan, a country which responded in a different manner compared to every other country. Other countries, what they did was they accepted it and they inculcated European values, but Japan cut off that influence right from the beginning, and that's why Japan probably became very advanced later on. Hope everybody got this. Okay? The reason why I asked this question was I wanted to know how many of you have got to the depth of the passage. So Namrata, Ashutosh, I hope you all understood that what answer you all have given is a part of the bigger option, and that is Japan probably has chosen the right way to respond to European colonialism. Okay, great. Let's go for the questions. It can be best inferred from the passage that in 1636, the Japanese government saw its citizens living abroad as potential threats. Remember, guys, the word is inferred, which means there will be evidence of this, but they will not be verbatim. It won't be written verbatim. Word to word नहीं लिखा रहेगा, but उसका evidence रहेगा. So what could be the answer here, guys? Okay, Shivraj has said E. Okay, now let's look at D and E. Okay, I'm happy that you all are interacting in an amazing manner. Let's look at D and E, guys. Okay, D says that foresaw the economic dangers of European trade and imperialism. How is that related with 1636? There are three things that they did in 1636, right? It's over here in second para. Seclusion edict of 1636, government attempted to extricate cultural interactions with Europe from the intimate fabric of Japanese society. First purpose was to reduce or remove the impact of cultural interactions. Now, you also have to understand one more thing, the sequencing of these three statements: first, second, third. Always remember, the author will always speak the most important at the start. So, first, it sought to curb cultural exchange by eliminating people bringing European ideas into Japan. Now, think carefully, guys. Think carefully. Also, look at this statement. The edict stated Japanese ships shall by no means be sent abroad. All Japanese residing abroad shall be put to death when they return home. This entire statement is related to the to the answer. Those who said D and E, now rethink your strategy and tell me. That's right, Shreya. It's A. The answer is going to be A. Did everyone understand why it is A? Why did they see the citizens living abroad as potential threats? Because these guys were instrumental in bringing European culture to Japan. And that is what the entire edict is about, to diminish the influence of culture. Also, we saw logical sequencing. First, second, third. First point they have written about this because that is the most important point according to the author. Okay? Answer is A. Saw its citizens living abroad as potential threats. I hope everyone got this. Let's go to question 2. Which of the following best characterizes the most significant motivation? Best characterizes, which means there might be among these options, there might be all the options might be closely related. Okay, that is the meaning of best characterizes. Which is the better one among all the options? The most significant motivation for Europe's behavior with Japan during 17th century. We're talking of Europe's behavior or not Japan's behavior. Now, if you notice, all are actually part of their manifesto. All these things, A, B, C, D, all of these are part of their manifesto. They wanted to spread their culture. They wanted to have, of course, B is not an answer at all. Sorry, B will not come because they never wanted long term political concerns. They just wanted short term. Yes. So now, why is it C? Why is C the answer? You have to look at the entire passage and you will realize that first, logical sequencing, that is what is mentioned first. Europeans wanted short term economic gain. So they neglected the long term effects of what they did. That's already clearly mentioned. Okay. Now, part of that, along with that, what did they do? Along with that means uske saath. So, what is more important is economic gains. Along with that, they had their religious zeal, and they wanted to spread their culture. They wanted to probably, take more territory, but that is not clear in this particular passage. Okay. In this passage, territorial aggrandizement is not very clear. Answer is C. Why? Logical primacy. That is, first author specifically talks about this and then he relates other points with it. Short term economic self interest. That was Europe's behavior with Japan during 17th century. Question 3. The author most likely included the quotation from Article 8 of Edict at the end of second para 2. Okay. Now this is actually quite close to referential because they're showing you where it is. But then look at the wording over here. Author most likely included. Most likely means from the point of view of the author. Now here you have to definitely you have to go back to that part of the passage. Okay. And second thing is, if you're already read it and you're clear about it, the second thing is whatever is that part of the passage that has to relate to the entire idea of the passage. The entire passage is talking about B, emphasize the determination of the Japanese government to protect itself, from foreign influences that saw it as damaging. That's why they did it. Answer is B. Anybody has doubt on this, guys? If anybody has doubt, please put in the chat box. So far, I've seen good level of accuracy among the students. Someone might say, why not E? Why not E? Because the author is saying specifically go to that part of the edict. That's why. It was nothing but Japanese government's determination to protect itself from foreign influences, which it saw as damaging. Question 4. Based upon the passage, the author would likely agree most strongly with which of the following? Based on the passage, now this is a purely inferential question. So you have to understand the passage and then give your answer to this new thing that they might, put up. When you read the passage from top to bottom, at the end of the passage, you will realize the author is making a point. And that's why, guys, I told you in your second reading, read the first para and the last para to recapture most important points. Last para, when you read, you'll realize the author actually gave all of this example to show one thing. What would happen if a country early during the imperial days, if a country had chosen like Japan had chosen, what would have happened? That's why answer is C. With hindsight of history, Japan likely made a good decision or appropriate decision in extricating itself from European influence. Extricating. This word is related to cutting off relation from European influence. Anybody has any questions on this? Any doubts? Any conflict of opinion? Okay, let's move ahead. Question 5. According to the passage, which of the following constituted the biggest reason for the seclusion edict of 1636? Biggest reason. Which of these could be the biggest reason? Definitely it is not C. What about B? That could have been the consequence, but we are not talking about that right now. European trade amounted to disproportionate transfer of wealth. The passage is not purely talking only about that, Nikita. That's why it will not be B. That's one of the aspects. Passage is more concerned with the influence, the European influence that could creep into traditional Japan. Yes, it is D. Because traditional Japanese culture and way of life was threatened by European influence. This was one of the reasons why they took the seclusion edict. First came culture and then came everything else from the Japanese point of view. From the European point of view, first came money. Okay, first came money, then everything. Japanese point of view, first came culture, then everything. Question 6. According to the passage, the Japanese government took all of the following actions in an attempt to protect Japanese culture of life, except. So you have to find out evidence among the passage. Prohibiting Japanese from visiting country, yes, they have done that. They have already shown that. Execute Japanese citizens, yes. Heavily regulate for, yes. Destroy all remnants of Christianity, yes. They tried to do that as well. But they have not spoken, the passage has not spoken about criticism of feudal shogun system of the government. This is not mentioned anywhere in the passage. This is a clear answer. Answer is E. More of a referential answer. It was not there. Primary purpose of the passage. Now, if you notice, I told you earlier while I was training you how to go through the reading comprehension passages. By the time you have finished 6 questions, your understanding is now so deep that question number 7 seems to be very easy. Primary purpose of the passage. Why did the author use this example? Why? Explain the actions of the government. It's not explaining the action, not giving any reasons why the government did that. Of course it is giving reasons, but primarily it's not talking about why it did it. Primarily the government took those actions because of a reason. What is that? Yes, the passage starts with the consequences of European trade, and then the passage says how one country's response was different, analyzing a country's response to it. That's what the passage is primarily about. Answer is C. Unanimous C. Okay. Now go for passage 2. It's 11:11. At 11:22 we will start with passage 2. Okay? Please solve passage 2. 10 minutes. All right, I'm sure you must have finished the passage by now. If you all are done with the passage, put in the chat box done. Yes, done. Okay, great. Let's revisit the passage. Let's solve it right now. So it's about this poet called as Alexander Pope, and it's about how he developed his how he developed his poetic career and all those things. So let me just share the screen with you guys. So we'll just begin. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So this is the entire passage. Some details are there in the passage regarding his poetic works, references to some of the things that he has done, his early childhood, his last work that he wrote. Okay, fine. Let's look at the questions. As per the passage, which of the following can be said true about Pott's disease? It's a referential question. Okay, it's a referential question. Very easy, actually. What could be the answer to this? It's clearly mentioned in the passage. Okay, it's a referential question. It is tuberculosis of spine and causes abnormal backward curvature of the same, resulting in a hunchback. C is very closely related, but there's no mention of tuberculosis. That's why C is not the answer. This is a purely referential question. You have to go to the part and capture verbatim. Okay. B is the right answer. B for Bombay. Question number 9. As per the passage, which of the following lists all the works by Alexander Pope? This is also a referential question. All the works. If you notice, there are a lot of repetitions over here. So just look at the things that are different. C is not the right answer, Kirti, because this particular work was not his work, it was somebody else's work. Okay, so C is not the answer. What's the difference between A and B? It's not B, guys, because B में क्या लिखा है? This part is not mentioned. It is A. A is the right answer. These all are mentioned. All of these are mentioned. Problem with B is this part. Okay, answer is A. Let's take question 3. Which of the following can be assumed as a valid reason for Pope to write the poem The Rape of the Lock? Yes, because that is exactly what is mentioned in the passage. First, they write that, and then they say probably this was something that he has captured. Answer is B. He wished to present a true account of a squabble between two prominent Catholic families over the theft of a lock of hair. That's right. Question 4. According to the passage, an essay on criticism was which of these options is closely related to this? Now, what about B? What is the difference between B and D, guys? An essay which established the heroic couplet as Pope's principal measure. This is clearly mentioned, and this is the primacy. Remember, I told you logical primacy. This is first mentioned, which means this is the most important thing for the author. What about D? Even D talks about heroic couplets. This is quite general. A poem written in a type of rhyming verse called heroic couplets? No. This is quite general. The more specific answer is this one, an essay which established heroic couplet as this is what he introduced. Okay, definitely a little learning is a dangerous thing, that is also there, that part is there, but what is primary over here is heroic couplet, because that is the author has given primacy to this. Answer is B. So understand guys, it is also the logical order in which the author talks about. If he has said something is first, then that is most important for him. The word grotto in the passage means what can you guess? See, he's talking about linking the river fields, the river gardens with the pasture gardens. So what could be the answer? Yeah, this is what he created for himself, an artificial cave, especially a landscape garden during the 18th century. Yes. Question 6. Shreya, the fourth question, you're talking about this one? No, the answer is B, Shreya, because D is more general. A poem written in a type of rhyming verse called heroic couplets. It is true, it's a poem written in this way, but okay, we will revisit that. We will revisit that, Shreya. Let's finish with this and we will revisit that. Yes, you are making a good point here. That's true. Okay, let's go with this one. In the passage, which of the following is not mentioned fact about Pope? Not mentioned. It is mentioned that he grew up as a Catholic. Yes. From age 12, he suffered. Yes. A precocious child. Yes. This is also mentioned. What is not mentioned is that although he never married, he had many female friends to whom he wrote witty letters. This is not mentioned in the passage. Answer is B. 7. Pope's late masterpiece is, that is actually, it should be latest, not late, latest, or the last. It is B. Answer is B. It is clearly mentioned. This was his last one. Answer is B. Okay, let's revisit question 4. Okay, here is the answer in question 4. Okay, now the problem is, as who has pointed that out, and I really like. Okay, Shreya has pointed out that for the fourth question, the answer should be D because it was a poem, not an essay, as it is mentioned in the passage. That's true, Shreya. That's right. Because over here they have said the poem. The passage says that essay on criticism was not an essay, it was actually a poem where heroic couplet as Pope's principal measure was introduced, established. That's true. That's right. Let's revisit question 4, guys. That's a good one. I'm happy that you have taken every word, you have looked at every word in detail. So, here, according to the passage, an essay on criticism was very good, Shreya. I'm happy that you saw this point. An essay which established the heroic couplet as Pope's principal measure. This is what we said. But, guys, look at the wordings over here. An essay. Was it an essay? No, it was a poem, right? Therefore, this part is wrong. If it was mentioned and a poem which established heroic couplet as Pope's principal measure, then this would have been the right answer. B would have been the right answer. But since they have mentioned it as an essay, this is wrong because the passage clearly says, although the title is an essay on criticism, it was actually a poem. Therefore, B cannot be an option. It cannot be the right option. The best option among these is D, a poem written in a type of rhyming verse called heroic couplets. Did you get it, guys? And thank you, Shreya, for bringing it to attention. Question number 4, we have changed. Did you understand the part, guys? It is not B, it is D. Great. Okay. Very good. Guys are doing fantastically well. The last passage is on philosophy. So please do the last passage. It's on analytical philosophy. Kindly read it carefully. I'm giving you all 10. Do we have 7 questions? No, we only have 4 questions. I'm giving you all 5 minutes. Take in 5 minutes. Please finish the last passage. Passage 3. Okay, I'm sure you all are done by now. So let's discuss. So what is this passage about? The third passage. What is it about? There are two things in this third passage. In Western analytical philosophy, there are two important characters over here. 2 points: personalism and valuational solipsism. Now, when you come across a passage with difficult words or words which you are not familiar with, don't be afraid. Why? Because 90% of the time, they will explain these difficult words in the upcoming paragraphs. That's the thing that you need to understand. Sometimes students just look at I don't understand what's the meaning of this word. Maybe I'll not understand the entire passage. Let me skip the passage. Don't do that. Keep a little patience. They will explain those points in the upcoming passage, in the upcoming paragraphs. Okay? Always remember, difficult words, most probably they will be explained. Not most probably, 90% of the time, they will be explained in the upcoming paragraphs. In fact, the whole passage may be about those difficult words. That's what we can see in this passage. First, they have described what is personalism. Then they have described what is valuational solipsism, which is actually a subset of personalism itself. Right? And what are we contrasting these 2 points with? What are we contrasting against? The political theory, the theory of the common good. Okay? Guys, are you all with me? Let me see some activity on the chat box. Yes, Namrata says yes. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Guys are there. All right. So I'm sure you must have finished it, right? सब लोगों ने पढ़ लिया ना passage? All have attempted it, right? ठीक है. So let's look at the questions. The primary purpose of the passage is what? What is it? Compare and contrast two important theories of good in political philosophy. Defend a theory of political good based on personalism from the attacks of valuational solipsis. Nahi, it's not B. C. Argue that an acceptance. Okay, argue that an acceptance of personalism necessarily leads to endorsement of valuational solipsism as well. A part of it says, but not the primary purpose. The primary purpose, guys, is related to A and D. But A is very vague and general. Compare and contrast two important theories. Which important theories? Not mentioned, right? So the answer has to be D. Evaluate the impact of two major ideas. Evaluate the impact that two major ideas have on the theory of good in political philosophy. That's right. Answer is D. Question 2. The passage suggests that a follower of personalism would be most likely to reject which of the following policies? Personalism is what? The individual is more important than the collective. That's what the personalism talks about, right? Now, passage suggests that a follower of personalism would be most likely to reject, which among these options is against personalism? A union head decrees that all members must strike when the union strikes because it increases the power of union. No, this is totally. Think about it, guys. Follower of personalism must reject it. Will he reject idea A? Guys, D is not the right answer. D for Delhi is not the right answer. You all have fallen into a trap over here. Read the question carefully. Everyone is making a mistake in this question. All are making a mistake. Read it carefully, guys. Read it carefully. जो भी मैंने आंसर्स देखे हैं सब लोग गलत आंसर्स दे रहे हैं, क्योंकि ऑल फॉलन इनटू अ ट्रैप. रीड द क्वेश्चन केयरफुली. क्वेश्चन क्या बोलता है? फॉलोवर ऑफ पर्सनलिज्म would most likely to reject is the word, guys. Reject. Which of the options will he reject? Because it is against personalism. Okay, अभी देखते हैं. ठीक है, let's go ulta. Head of religious institutions announces that its members no longer have to give part of their income to the church. मतलब क्या है? What is the meaning of E? It says that individuals don't have to contribute to the collective. No, understood? So they are giving importance to members, individuals. So he will not reject E, he will accept it. Guys, E is with personalism, not against personalism. क्यों? Personalism क्या है, by the way? What is personalism? Individual is more important, right? Individual has the freedom. ग्रुप बोल के इंडिविजुअल को हटाने का नहीं. That's what it says. इसलिए E, he will agree with E. Why? He is giving more power to the individuals, to the members. They don't have to give money to the church anymore. So he will agree with E. The question is whom he will not agree with. D. The company owner decides to cancel the company insurance policy in order to increase his profit. This is also personalism. Why? He is acting according to his individual taste. He wants to increase his profit. So person is given more importance than collective, that is company insurance policy. So he will agree with D also. D के साथ भी वो agree होगा. C. A school decides to abandon its uniform standards after a student body votes against them. मतलब क्या है? यूनिफॉर्म क्या होता है? यूनिफॉर्म इज कलेक्टिव. Student body is talks about the rights of each student. So he will agree with C also. A politician intends to lower tax on middle class to put more of the workers' money back into their hands. Again, this is favoring people, just like E. P and E are very related. तो ये भी वो हाँ बोलेगा. Answer is A, guys. क्यों? Union head decrees that all members must strike when the union strikes because it increases the power of union. This is talking only about the group, the collective, and a personalist will be against this idea. He says, I don't want to give more importance to the group. I will give more importance to the member. Answer is E. Sorry, answer is A. A is the answer. I hope you have understood now. जिसने भी पहले B, C, D, E बोला था, I hope you have understood that A.
Right. So now,
Yes, guys. Yes or no, guys? Just let me know if you all have understood or not. Put it in the chat box. Clear? Okay, got it. Let's move ahead. Question 3. According to the passage, the author objects to which aspect of valuational solipsism? Objects. What is the object to valuational solipsism? What is valuational solipsism? Again, it is a subset of personalism itself. But here it talks about I exist. That is most important. What does he object? What does he criticize? So you the area of valuational solipsism, which is towards the end of the passage. E is a mind read, guys. If you say it justifies policies that cause harm to individuals for the sake of greater good, ये तो opposite है उसका. ये तो opposite है. ये valuational solipsism है ही नहीं. ये तो political good है ये. ये opposite है, guys. In fact, valuational solipsism is talking against it. ठीक है, तो E तो नहीं आएगा. If you say D, then again this is what you have inferred from it according to your understanding. But what is clearly mentioned and what is clearly can be inferred from there is that it fails to consider essential elements of political good. What is that? If you notice, let's go back to the passage. I'll show it to you. This is where your answer is. This is where the answer is. Neglects to consider the whole range of social values that are part of the political experience. It neglects citizenship, status, and community. This is what it neglects. This is what the author has a problem with. So the answer is going to be C. It fails to consider essential elements of political good. Answer is C, guys. C. If anybody has not understood this, please ask. Why it is not B? That is not, author has nothing against that. Author says that is fine. But there is a point of valuational solipsism which the author is against, and that is वो इंडिविजुअल पे इतना ध्यान देते हैं कि कलेक्टिव गुड जो है जैसे कि सिटीजनशिप, it fails to consider that. It is not within the scope of valuational solipsism. Did you get the answer? Why it is C? सबको समझ में आया? Tejas, Parth, and all, did you all understand? Let's go to question 4. According to the passage, primary value of personalist assumption is most important value of for a personalist would be what among the following? Come on, guys. Let me see how many of you got this as right. ये पैसेज छोटा तो था लेकिन इतना इजी नहीं था कंपेयर टू द रिमेनिंग पैसेजेस, क्योंकि मैंने मैक्सिमम मिस्टेक्स यहाँ किए हैं. Definitely not A. Why definitely not A? Read it carefully, guys. Okay, some people are saying C. Let me see what are the answers that you all have given, then I'll give you all the reasoning. Okay, now those people who have said C, which says that it demonstrates that institutions are incapable of good or of being good or bad. Maybe you have taken the clue from the exam, from the sentence which says that human beings more important, right? It's about how good it is to a human being. But that is not the entire passage. Look at the entire passage. What is it? It is nothing but a witty reply to certain types of justifications. Again, I'm bringing back to your mind something called as logical primacy. This is the third time I'm bringing this point. Logical primacy का मतलब क्या है? The order in which the author writes the passage is very important. हमेशा वो सबसे important चीज पहले बोलेगा. उसने क्या बोला है first para में? I'll just show it to you. Oops, we have gone right on top. Look at this para over here. As a philosophical assumption, this is where your answer will lie, guys. Assumption बोला था ना, वहां पे personalist का assumption क्या होता है? What is the value that he assumes? As a philosophical assumption, personalism is most useful in countering arguments. This is where your answer is. For practices that harm individuals in the name of the greater good and society at large. This is the primary value or most important foundation for personalism, that it is supposed to be a philosophical reply for arguments like these: the greater good, the society at large, which means country first, people afterwards. They said no, people first, country afterwards. That's what personalists say. ठीक है, तो आंसर क्या रहेगा यहाँ पे? आई थिंक मेनी ऑफ यू ऑल मे बी बिकॉज यू ऑल डोंट नो द मीनिंग ऑफ रिजॉइंडर. यस महेंद्र, यू आर राइट. रिजॉइंडर क्या होता है? रिजॉइंडर इज अ विटी रिप्लाई. So it is actually, it provides a reply to certain types of justifications. What are those justifications? Greater good, society at large. Answer is E, guys. Answer is E. E is the answer. think only Mahendra could see that. Who else? Yes, answer is E. Did you all understand, guys, why answer is E? Anybody has doubts? Anybody has any counter arguments? Please let me know. Good. Why not B? It serves as a counterbalance to the excessive nature of valuational solipsism. Look at the question, Kirti. Question kya hai? Primary value of personalist assumption. The primary value. Primary का मतलब क्या है? Logically first. सबसे important. Primary means very important. What's the foundation of the personalist assumption? What was it built on? Yes, got it, no? Because it is already mentioned over there also. Philosophical assumption. That's why. It was built on the principle that, as a reply, it was built on the principle to reply what was going on in the society, that the nation is more important than the citizens and all that stuff. This was a reply to that. Good. Okay, so we have done 3 passages in RC, and the level of accuracy has been fairly good among the people who have interacted here on the forum. I've seen good level of accuracy. This last passage, although it was small, because it comes from philosophy which we are not very um, familiar in reading, probably that's the reason why maximum mistakes were made in this particular passage. Although it was small, only 4 questions, but maximum mistakes were made over here. So the lesson that you and I must learn over here is that we have to read more on philosophy. Like I've told you earlier, where will you get those things? You will get it in your sacred space. On Times of India, we have something called a sacred space, or I think it's called the speaking tree, something like that. That's where you will get philosophical passages. If you read philosophical passages, you will be familiar and you will commit less mistakes in this section of RC. Okay, let's move on to passage reordering now. Hope everything regarding RC is clear to you all. Okay, I've seen on the YouTube comments, people have asked, sir, but when we read we don't understand. Guys, if you read in the way I have told you to read, you will definitely understand. No passage is going to be beyond your intellectual capacity, remember that. No passage is going to be beyond your intellectual capacity. Now, one more clue that I will give you, which I have given to students who are attempting TCS digital, is that from now on, don't read RC passages as if इसके बाद मुझे क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करना है. ऐसे एटीट्यूड के साथ मत पढ़ो. What should be your attitude? How can you make your mind grasp 100% of what is written out there? By reading with the attitude that I am reading to learn. I read to learn something new. This should be your attitude when you look at any passage in RC. Read RC passages with this attitude. I read to learn something new. When you read with this attitude, you will automatically grasp the meanings, because they will never give you something which is beyond your intellectual capacity. If you guys can clear engineering, this is nothing. Namrata, philosophical passages you will get if you go for Times of India, then you will get it in the speaking tree section of Times of India. Spirituality section जो है, कोई भी अच्छे न्यूज़पेपर का spirituality section, वहां पे you will get philosophical passages. Yes, yes, online. You can just go to you can just download the TOI app. It's there in every newspaper actually. TOI app, Times of India app, and just go to Sacred Space or Speaking Tree. Okay. All right. Shall we continue to sentence or passage reordering? Now, passage reordering, like I told you, is nothing but parajumbles. You can expect maximum 5 questions. Maximum 5 questions. We have already done parajumbles earlier in our lectures, so you definitely must be knowing what are the mistakes that people do. But I will revisit it for the benefit of everyone. A few points I'll just revisit it. Okay. So maximum, maybe you can expect 5 questions in parajumbles. You have 2 types in parajumbles. What has happened? Where is it gone? Okay. You have random parajumbles or random where all sentences are mixed, or you may have parajumbles where intro is given, so you don't have to find the intro, it is already given, and conclusion is given. 2 sentences are given to you. You have to only reorder what is there in between these 2 sentences. Okay. You only have to reorder what is there between these 2 sentences. बाकी सब दिया गया है, introduction दिया है, conclusion दिया है. We have seen normally there is a mixture of these two. तो 5 क्वेश्चन रहेंगे तो शायद 3 क्वेश्चंस रैंडम ऑर्डर से आएंगे और 2 क्वेश्चंस इंट्रोडक्शन एंड कंक्लूजन दिया हुआ है वैसे आएंगे. But in any case, the strategies are the same. In fact, introduction and conclusion given in that is easier. क्योंकि वहां पे introduction दिया है. All you have to do is just link the sentences. You have to just link which sentence links with introduction. वो रहेगा first sentence. Then you have to link it out. So quickly, I'll just give you the strategies which you have done earlier, but I'll just revisit it so that you can. It'll be a refresher to you. What do we do first? First, we scan. Scan means पहले questions को देखेंगे और सबसे छोटे क्वेश्चंस, द शॉर्टेस्ट सेंटेंसेस वाले क्वेश्चंस. We will first attempt them. Why? They are faster to solve. That's why. How will we attempt them? You will first try to find the intro. How to find the intro? Intro will be the most logically independent sentence. Independent का मतलब क्या है? It has meaning on its own. It does not require any other sentence to introduce it before. इसका मतलब है जो भी वो सेंटेंस में लिखा है, इट इज क्लियरली वेल डिफाइंड विद इन द सेंटेंस. यू डोंट हैव टू गो बियॉन्ड दैट सेंटेंस टू मेक मीनिंग ऑफ इट. ठीक है. इट विल बी द मोस्ट लॉजिकली इंडिपेंडेंट सेंटेंस, विच मीन्स इट विल नॉट हैव. ठीक है. लेट मी पुट अ टाइम्स, लेट मी पुट अ स्टैम्प ओवर हियर. What will it not have? It will not have pronouns. So you will not have anything like he, she, it. Introduction will not have pronouns. Introduction will not have short forms. Why? It is not defined. That's why. It will not start with conjunctions and, but, however. Okay. What else? It will not start with examples. Why? Because examples can't be just given. They have to be defined. Something has to come before the examples, right? It will not start with reasons, because, that's why, therefore, as a result. It will not start like that. तो ये सब इंट्रोडक्शन में आएगा ही नहीं. What is an intro? Most logically independent sentence, which means well defined, self defined sentence. Self defined. You don't have to go outside it to understand it. See, that's what you do, right? When you introduce an essay, you will not give a vague statement. You will define that essay by giving a proper introduction where you don't have to go beyond that anymore. उसके ऊपर बाद में आप build करोगे. So it will be the most logically independent, self defined, and highly general. It will not be specific, it will be highly general. And then you will go into the specific details. Second sentence में we will go in specific details, right? ठीक है. इंट्रोडक्शन को ऐसे फाइंड आउट करेंगे. ये सारी चीजें नहीं होंगी इंट्रोडक्शन में, प्रोनाउन, शॉर्ट फॉर्म्स एंड ऑल दैट. प्लीज गेट दिस करेक्ट. क्या रहेगा इंट्रोडक्शन में? लॉजिकली इंडिपेंडेंट, इट विल बी सेल्फ डिफाइंड, इट विल बी हाईली जनरल. So what does it mean? It means that your introduction will have, what will it have? So let me put it down for everybody's benefit. Mostly your introduction will have, if it's talking about an individual, it will have full name of that individual. उसका पूरा नाम रहेगा. If that person is not a famous personality, ठीक है. अगर famous personality नहीं है तो उसका पूरा नाम रहेगा. Full name will be given. Also, it will have full form. If it's talking about an organization, it will have full form. जैसे कि इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड, IMF, इट विल गिव द फुल फॉर्म. IMF नहीं बोलेंगे, इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड बोलेंगे. What else? It will start with a definition or a law or a statement. Then examples will be given. Probably your introduction will be a statement or a law or a definition. Okay, just have a look at these things. Now, if you can spot the introduction, you have already won 50% of your battle. I would say even more than that. Okay, so far is it clear? Okay, this is what your introduction will look like. What about the second sentence? Now the next part is to find the sentence which is linking to introduction. So we call it the logical connective or linking sentence. The second sentence will be something which continues the introduction. So introduction now will be continued with the second sentence. That is, there will be a repetition of introductory idea. So you have to look for repetition. There's going to be a repetition of the introductory idea. So for example, agar introductory idea it was talking about the global economy downfall, then in the second sentence they will give an example of that, or they might give a reason of that. There'll be a repetition of the idea. So whenever you see idea being repeated, it means two sentences are connected to each other. The repetition can be in terms of the same word used or idea. It may also be in terms of examples for clarification. That's going to be your second statement. Now, many times I've seen, friends, if you find out two sentences, that's it. You don't have to go beyond that. ठीक है. So look at the options. If the options are recurring, let's say you have an option called 1 2 3 4, another option called 1 3 2 4, another option called 3 2 1 4, and then finally an option called as 3 4 2 1. So what is the logic here? How should you solve it? Just check whether sentence 1 or sentence 3 is an intro. How to check? With these parameters which I have given you already. Check against these parameters. Okay. Now, if you found out that okay, sentence 3 is the introduction, then you just have to check which sentence 2 or sentence 4, इनमें से कौन सा sentence 3 को continue करता है. Found out that 3 is an introduction. Which sentence continues the idea of 3? Which sentence gives an example of 3? Which sentence gives a repetition of word? If you found out that 4 gives an continuation of 3, that's it. It is option D, which says 3 4 2 1. You don't even have to check for 2 and 1. 3 4 2 1. And that's how you will be able to solve parajumbles. Like I told you earlier in the lectures, biggest mistake the students do is they read the parajumble as it is. Don't read the question. In parajumbles, don't read the question. Glance through it, see which is the shortest one, solve it first. How to solve it? Look at the options. First thing, look at the options. Second, find the intro. Third, find the linking sentence. End of story. That's it. So you will be able to solve parajumbles much faster than people who don't have this strategy. Clear, everyone? If it's clear, please write clear so that we can go with the examples and solve. Maybe I have 11 examples for you all. So we can solve those 11 examples right here in this workshop. Okay, so let's continue. I'll now give you all a link. There are 11 questions in it. Use the same strategy, solve these 11 questions, and then we will have a discussion on it. Okay? Okay, done everyone? Have you finished solving those 11 questions? Okay, I think you are still solving it fine. Go ahead, please solve it. Most are still solving it. Okay, last two remaining. Okay, finish it off. Okay, then in that case, in any case, we will be discussing those. It might take more time. So what we can do, guys, is continue solving it. Finish those questions. Probably what we can do is we can start discussing. We can start the next session by discussing these questions. Okay, that is the next session starts at 2 o'clock. We will start the next session at 2 o'clock, where we will start by discussing. I'll just give the agenda of the next session so that you are clear on what we are going to do. Next session, wherein we will be doing from 2 p.m. onwards. We'll be doing the session from 2 p.m. onwards. And we will start with number one, we'll start with discussion of parajumbles, what we have just done, or sentence or passage reordering, discussion of solutions. Second thing that we will do is we will look at close test, another big competitor in competitive questions in your TCS. So we have RC is the biggest competitor here. Second would be parajumbles, and along with parajumbles, you may have something called as close tests. So we will look at some strategies, and we will also solve some questions on close test. Third will be vocab and grammar, which means error detection. So what we will do is we will do error detection, that is spot the error. TCS calls it error detection. We'll do error replacement. TCS calls it error replacement, also called as sentence correction or error correction. Also, it calls it error correction. Then we'll do right word, putting the right word, and we will do sentence completion and contextual vocab. Very important stuff. So what we have covered in the first half today is 50% or more of your verbal section. RC and parajumbles, big competitors. The remaining half, what is very important is your close test and these remaining things. Okay? I'm sure you have the link for the next section also. So log in at 2 o'clock and we will start at 2. Okay, you can take a break now.